Chapter 41, The Martial Market Bank. This chapter is updated by Novels.pl. My Ninth Prince. There are only two weapon refining stoves which are classified as 7th class genuine martial arms in the entire Yunwu Commandery. One of them is owned by the Chief of the Federation of Inscription while the other one is right in front of you. Qin Ya led Zhang Yuochen to the armory where the 3-meter-tall bronze weapon refining stove was kept. This time, rather than just the two of them going in alone, the 9th Commandery Princess, Shan Xiangling, and Mo Hanlin were together as well. Zhang Yuochen's eyes were fixed on the massive stove in front of him. Nodding in satisfaction, he said, "This weapon refining stove should be very expensive." If it was not expensive, it would have been bought by any weapon refiners long ago. Pursing her lips, Qin Ya chuckled softly and said, "Of course, it's expensive. I usually set the base price at 2 million silver coins when other weapon refiners ask about it. Since it's the 9th Prince, I'm willing to offer you a half price. 1 million silver coins and that's it. No more bargaining." 1 million silver coins? That's way too expensive. It seems like you're robbing us blind. The 9th Commandery Princess said in a slightly displeased manner. She was obviously annoyed with Qin Ya. Even Shan Xiangling was secretly surprised. The Red Cloud sect only made 500,000 silver coins for the entire year. Yet, a single piece of weapon refining stove could easily cost 1 million silver coins, which would be the double of her sect's annual income. This stove was excessively expensive. Zhang Yuochen shook his head and said, "Not at all. It's actually very cheap. A 7th class genuine martial arms weapon is sold for at least 1 million silver coins. A weapon refining stove of the same class will certainly cost more, with its price exceeding 2 million silver coins. Madam, if you keep offering low prices, I'm afraid you will go out of business very soon. No amount of money can fill the void I feel within. If the 9th Prince can spend a night with me, I'm more than happy to give you the weapon refining stove for free," Qin Ya said flirtatiously as she stared at Zhang Yuochen with eyes full of affection. "How seductive." Zhang Yuochen coughed dryly, feeling a little awkward. He replied, "I'll collect 1 million silver coins as soon as possible. I hope you can keep the weapon refining stove on hold for the time being. I'm in a rush. I'll excuse myself first." Having said that, Zhang Yuochen quickly walked out of the armory as if he was running away from danger. The 9th Commandery Princess ran after Zhang Yuochen and asked, "9th brother, are you sure you want to buy that weapon refining stove? 1 million silver coins is not a small sum. Even though the royal family sends silver coins to all our brothers and sisters every month, it's still impossible to raise 1 million silver coins from what we get. I'm getting 3,000 silver coins a month for basic expenses, which is already the most among all princesses. I guess you can only receive up to 5,000 at most for a month." Zhang Yuochen replied calmly, "Don't worry, 9th sister. I'm not going to rely on the funds allocated by the royal family. Very soon I'll be able to collect 1 million silver coins." A 7th class genuine martial arms weapon refining stove was not easily available anywhere. Thus, Zhang Yuochen could not miss the chance of getting it. Once he had the weapon refining stove, he could use it to refine spatial rings anytime. By then, he would have an endless supply of the rings and money would no longer be an issue. Now, he only had 800,000 silver coins, which were all deposited in the Martial Market Bank. How was he going to collect the remaining 200,000 silver coins? Zhang Yuochen glanced at the spatial ring on his thumb out of the corner of his eyes. Suddenly, an idea popped into his mind. He smiled and said, "The Martial Market Bank." Qin Ya's face darkened and her smile disappeared as soon as she walked out of the armory. Looking at the direction where Zhang Yuochen, the 9th Commandery Princess, and Shan Xiangling left, she said in a low tone, "He's able to demonstrate the technique of multitasking during the year-end assessment. He must have practiced his spiritual power to level 20 or above." Mo Hanlin stood behind Qin Ya and his expression flickered. He said, "He's only 16 years old. I think it's not quite possible for him to practice his spiritual power up to level 20. Neither do I. After all, the spiritual power of a human body is limited. It's theoretically impossible to obtain such incredible martial arts talent as well as the spiritual power. However, Since he's so determined to buy the weapon refining stove, he probably wants to become a weapon refiner. Perhaps his spiritual power is indeed brilliant. Kinya narrowed her eyes as her curiosity grew. Driven by the desire to test out her theory, she said, Mohanlin, check with the Federation of Inscription. I'm sure the 9th Prince has been there for a few times recently. I want to know the exact level of his spiritual power. Yes, I'll head off now. Mohanlin bowed to Kinya and hurried away. Boy, you make me even more curious now. Kinya stuck out her soft tongue and licked her red lips while laughing in a coquettish manner. Zhang Yuochen, the 9th Commandery Princess, and Shanxi Angling rode on the carriage and headed to the Martial Market Bank. The 9th Commandery Princess asked, 9th brother, why are we heading to the Martial Market Bank? Do you have a million silver coins kept over there? Zhang Yuochen smiled and responded, well, I did have a million silver coins, but I've spent some. Now, there are around 800,000 silver coins left. Shanxi Angling's eyes lit up with surprise when she heard this. She was shocked by how much assets Zhang Yuochen had at such a young age. 800,000? Impossible. 9th brother, where did you get that massive amount of money from? The 9th Commandery Princess was extremely surprised. She could not believe her ears. Not to mention 9th Commandery Princess, even if it was a leader from any other large-scale family in the Yanwu city, it was still difficult to come up with 800,000 silver coins right away. Even though the Lins could come up with 1.2 million silver coins to purchase the low class of spiritual sword skill, it was thanks to the financial capability of the entire family rather than Lin Fengxian himself. It would be good enough if Lin Fengxian could come up with 500,000 silver coins at once. Zhang Yuochen had nothing to hide. When he purchased the weapon refining stove later, his wealth would still be exposed anyway. Moreover, no one would dare to steal from him in the Yanwu city, knowing that he was one of the superiors in the royal family, the 9th Prince. Even if the 9th Prince has 800,000 silver coins with him, he'll still need 200,000 more in order to buy the weapon refining stove. Shanxi Angling said softly. Zhang Yuochen replied, that's why we are heading to the Martial Market Bank. I'm going to do a business with them. As for what kind of business, I can't tell you now. Zhang Yuochen had a feeling that the Martial Market Bank would surely be interested in the spatial ring. Being able to store treasures inside the spatial ring would be very useful for the Martial Market Bank. By doing business with the Martial Market Bank, it would fully maximize the profit he could get from the spatial ring. The magnificently constructed Martial Market Bank was tightly guarded. A large number of armored royal guards could be seen watching over all sides of the bank at any time. In terms of the defensive power, Martial Market Bank was second only to the palace of the Yanwu Commandery. The moment Zhang Yuochen, the 9th Commandery Princess, and Shanxi Angling got off the carriage, a figure quickly approached them. Greetings, the 9th Prince and the 9th Commandery Princess. I'm the 9th steward of the Martial Market Bank. An old man with goatee beard hurriedly walked over and greeted Zhang Yuochen and the 9th Commandery Princess with great respect and courtesy. Zhang Yuochen asked, do you know me? The 9th steward smiled and said, if I can't even recognize the 9th Prince, then I'm not qualified to be the Martial Market Bank's steward. Zhang Yuochen nodded and said, well, that's great. I want to discuss a huge business opportunity with the manager of the Martial Market Bank. I was hoping Mr. Steward could be my referral. Haha. Who do you think you are? You're just one of the 9 princes. How dare you ask the manager to do a business with you? If so, you should have made Commandery Prince Yanwu come here in person. Liu Chengfeng walked out from the main door of the Martial Market Bank with his head held high. He had an arrogant expression on his face and his gaze was just as unfriendly. It seemed that he wanted to compare himself to Zhang Yuochen. Thus, he brought 2 young and beautiful maids with him. They appeared to be around 14 or 15 years old. However, their appearance and manner still paled in comparison to the 9th Commandery Princess and Shanxi Angling. Liu Chengfeng said with a sense of superiority, if you really have a business to discuss, I can do it with you. Given my status, it's more than enough. Zhang Yuochen was not sure if he should believe his words. He gave Liu Chengfeng a thorough once-over and replied blandly, the business I would like to discuss. With your status, I'm afraid you're not qualified enough to do so. Excuse me? Do you even know who I am? Liu Chengfeng's expression quickly turned cold. Actually, I'm not too sure who you are. Zhang Yuochen said nonchalantly. Liu Chengfeng said with a hint of pride, well, listen up. I'm Liu Chengfeng, the son of the manager of the Marshall Market Bank. Even though you've never met me in person, you should have at least heard of my name before. I'm sorry, but I've never heard of your name. Ignoring Liu Chengfeng, Zhang Yuochen turned to the ninth steward and said, Mr. Steward, please pass my message to the manager. If he doesn't want to see me, I'll leave right away. My ninth prince, please wait here for a moment. The ninth steward immediately went to notify the manager about this matter. In fact, if he was the feeble Zhang Yuochen before obtaining the sacred mark, he would not have a chance to enjoy such treatment. However, it was different now. His outstanding performance in the year-end assessment had successfully aroused the attention and interest of many major powers in the Yunwu city. No one would look down on such an extraordinary genius, who knew if he would become the king of Yunwu Commandery in the future. Zhang Yuochen's action had completely enraged Liu Chengfeng. Zhang Yuochen casually dismissed him in front of everyone as if he was someone of no importance. It made him feel like he had lost all his face in front of Shanxi angling. Let's see. I'm sure my father won't receive you. With your martial cultivation, you're just a tiny little ant in my father's eyes, Liu Chengfeng said coldly with disdain in his voice. Zhang Yuochen did not bother to respond to him. He stood with his arms crossed, patiently waiting for the steward. The ninth commandery princess and Shanxi angling did not hide the contempt they had for Liu Chengfeng, showing a disdainful expression on their faces. They felt that Liu Chengfeng was too rude and lack of manner. He was not even worth comparing to Zhang Yuochen. The ninth prince, does he want to do business with me? Liu Quanshan stood next to the lake, his hands clasped behind his back. The aura emanating from him resembled a lofty mountain, giving people a sense of superiority. Yes, he does. If my manager doesn't want to see him, I'll ask him to leave. But what? The ninth steward kneeled down on the ground and continued to say, that's another matter. I've already found out the identity of the mystery man who auctioned the low class of spiritual sword skill in the central auction. The mystery man is the same person, the ninth prince. He currently has 800,000 silver coins deposited in the Marshall Market Bank. Wow! It's unbelievable for a young man like him to have such fortune. What kind of adventure has he encountered in these few months? A faint smile broke out on Liu Quanshan's face. He said, well, there's no harm meeting him. Perhaps it'll bring me some pleasant surprises.